September 7th and 8th, blood moon. A sign of the apocalypse? Prophecy fulfilled? September 7th and 8th, 2025. Two dates that have astronomers worldwide tracking the most significant lunar event in over a decade. You will be shocked when you find out 7 discoveries about September 7th, Bible's blood moon and prophecy. Discovery 1. What's happening to the moon? Imagine stepping outside this weekend and witnessing the moon transform into a glowing orb of deep crimson, hanging in the darkness like a cosmic warning sign. Here's what sets September's blood moon apart from the dozens of lunar eclipses that occur each decade. The September eclipse will last more than 5 hours from start to finish. And get this, nearly 77% of the world's population will be able to view at least part of this event. That's over 6 billion people who have the opportunity to witness the same cosmic phenomenon simultaneously. Here's something that might surprise you. For sky watchers, no special glasses or protection are needed. Unlike solar eclipses that can permanently damage your vision, lunar eclipses are completely safe to view with the naked eye. Discovery 2. Prophecy on fire. What the Bible actually says. For centuries, biblical scholars have debated whether passages describing the moon turning to blood should be interpreted literally or symbolically. The September 7th to 8th event may be settling that debate definitively. Joel 2:31 prophesied, "The sun shall be turned to darkness, and the moon to blood, before the great and awesome day of the Lord comes." Revelation 6:12 describes the 6th seal judgment. "I looked when he opened the 6th seal, and behold, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became like blood." But here's what most people miss about these prophecies. They don't just describe the moon appearing red. They describe the moon becoming blood. The Hebrew word used in Joel is dam, actual blood, not just blood-colored. The Greek word in Revelation is haima, the same root word from which we get hematite, the iron oxide compound now forming on the lunar surface. But the blood moon prophecies connect to a larger biblical principle that most people don't understand. The heavens were designed as God's primary communication system to humanity. Genesis 1:14 establishes this principle. "And God said, Let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs, and for seasons, and for days, and years." The Hebrew word for signs is oth, the same word used for miraculous signs, covenant markers, and divine communications throughout Scripture. The heavenly bodies weren't created just for illumination or timekeeping. They were designed as divine billboards, announcing God's activities to humanity. But here's what makes this communication system particularly sophisticated. It operates on multiple levels simultaneously. Level 1. Natural revelation. Psalm 19:1-2 describes the basic level. "The heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament showeth his handiwork. Day unto day uttereth speech, and night unto night showeth knowledge." Even without understanding prophetic significance, celestial phenomena demonstrate God's existence, power, and creativity to anyone willing to observe. Level 2. Prophetic announcement. Matthew 24:29-30 describes Jesus using celestial signs to announce his return. "Immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens shall be shaken. And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven. And then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. Celestial events serve as advance announcements of divine intervention in human affairs. Level 3. Judgment Warning. Isaiah 13:10 connects celestial signs to divine judgment. For the stars of heaven and the constellations thereof shall not give their light. The sun shall be darkened in his going forth, and the moon shall not cause her light to shine. When heavenly bodies deviate from normal patterns, they're warning humanity that divine patience has limits and judgment approaches. Here's what should make every believer's heart race. Over 81% of biblical prophecies have already been fulfilled with precise accuracy. The remaining 19% describe end times events that require specific global conditions to exist before they can be completed. Those conditions are now in place, but the biblical blood moon prophecies include timing indicators that connect them to specific periods in God's prophetic timeline. Joel 2:30-31 provides the sequence. And I will show wonders in the heavens and in the earth, blood and fire and pillars of smoke. The sun shall be turned into darkness and the moon into blood, before the great and the terrible day of the Lord come. The blood moon appears before the day of the Lord, not during it, but as an advance warning that it approaches. This timing distinction is crucial for understanding current events. If we're seeing literal lunar blood formation, we're not witnessing the final judgment. And there shall be signs in the sun, and in the moon, and in the stars, and upon the earth distress of nations with perplexity, the sea and the waves roaring, men's hearts failing them for fear, and for looking after those things which are coming on the earth. For the powers of heaven shall be shaken. Notice the progression. Celestial signs appear first, then global distress follows, then human fear intensifies as people recognize the implications. Current global conditions match this progression exactly. Unusual celestial phenomena are multiplying, while international tensions escalate and public anxiety about the future increases. But here's what many miss about the blood moon prophecies. They describe signs for Israel during the tribulation period, not signs for the church during the current age. Romans 11:25 explains the timing. For I would not, brethren, that ye should be ignorant of this mystery, lest ye should be wise in your own conceits, that blindness in part is happened to Israel, until the fullness of the Gentiles be come in. Israel's spiritual blindness is temporary. When the church age ends with the rapture, when the fullness of the Gentiles is complete, Israel's eyes will be opened to recognize Jesus as their Messiah. The blood moon signs described in Joel and Revelation serve to awaken Israel spiritually during the tribulation period after the church has been removed. 2 Peter 3:9 reveals God's heart behind all prophetic warnings. The Lord is not slack concerning his promise, as some men count slackness, but is long-suffering to usward, not willing that any should perish, but that all should come to repentance. Every sign, every wonder, every supernatural event is an expression of divine mercy. God provides warnings because he desires repentance, not destruction. He gives advance notice because he wants people to prepare spiritually, not panic physically. Discovery 3. Parallel signs. Euphrates drying, rivers turn blood red. The lunar hematite formation isn't occurring in isolation. It's happening while multiple signs manifest simultaneously across different systems of creation. The Euphrates River has dropped to historically low levels, exposing archaeological sites and creating conditions that match Revelation 16:12.
هل تحتاج قوة أكبر؟ إذن فأنت بحاجة إلى استضافة VPS من هوستنج. قل وداعاً لحدود الخواتم وتمتع بإمكانية الوصول إلى المزيد من التخزين والمزيد من الذاكرة والمزيد من عرض النطاق الترددي والسرعة. لقطات مجانية في الوقت الحقيقي ونسخ احتياطية أسبوعية تلقائية. المزيد من الأمان وأقل DDoS. مزيد من الذكاء ومساعدة AI ودعم العملاء. احصل على المزيد من كل شيء تحتاجه وادفع أقل مما تتوقع. احصل على خادمك على الإنترنت في دقائق. انتقل إلى hostinger.ae واحصل على المزيد. موثوق بها من قبل الملايين في انحاء العالم. 3, 2, online.
August 15th, 2025, 6:47 a.m. local time. Something happened to the Sea of Galilee. The most sacred lake in Christianity turned blood red, as if someone had poured crimson dye into 64 square miles of pristine water overnight. This story have had many people wondering, is this a fulfillment of end times prophecy? Is the water turning to blood? But here's what makes this story even more unsettling. This isn't an isolated incident. In fact, I'm about to reveal 5 separate locations around the world where water has mysteriously turned the color of blood. And what I discovered about the true cause will shock you. What I'm about to share with you is happening right now, across multiple continents, and most people have no idea how widespread this phenomenon has become. A canal in Nootdorp, the Netherlands, blood red. Bondi Beach in Australia, blood red. The Beirut River in Lebanon, blood red. A river in Zhejiang Province, China, blood red. And here's the one that really got my attention. Rainfall in Sawanagala, Sri Lanka came down looking like blood itself. Now, before I reveal what's really behind these mysterious events, let me ask you something that might keep you up tonight. Could these be the biblical signs we've been warned about for thousands of years? Here's where things get fascinating and terrifying. The Bible doesn't just mention water turning to blood once or twice. It's actually a recurring theme that appears at the most critical moments in human history. And what's described sounds exactly like what we're seeing today. But wait. There's something specific about these prophecies that most people miss. Something that will determine whether we're actually living through the end times or witnessing something else entirely. I'll reveal that crucial detail in just a moment. First, let's examine what the ancient texts actually say, because the specifics matter more than you might think. The book of Revelation warns us that during the second trumpet judgment, something catastrophic will happen. The second angel sounded his trumpet, and something like a huge mountain, all ablaze, was thrown into the sea. A third of the sea turned into blood. A third of the living creatures in the sea died, and a third of the ships were destroyed. Revelation 8:8-9. But that's not all. The prophecy gets even more intense. Later, in Revelation 16:3, we're told about an even more devastating event. The second angel poured out his bowl on the sea, and it turned into blood like that of a dead person, and every living thing in the sea died. And here's where it gets personal for every human being on earth. The prophecy continues in verses 4-6. The third angel poured out his bowl on the rivers and springs of water, and they became blood. Then I heard the angel in charge of the waters say, "You are just in these judgments, O Holy One, you who are and who were, for they have shed the blood of your holy people and your prophets, and you have given them blood to drink as they deserve." Think about that for a second. Not just the oceans, the fresh water supply, rivers, springs, everything we depend on to survive. But there's more. Revelation 11:6 tells us about two special witnesses during the tribulation. They have power to turn the waters into blood and to strike the earth with every kind of plague as often as they want. This same power was given to Moses, who turned the Nile River to blood in Exodus 7:20. Now here's the question that's probably burning in your mind. Are we seeing these prophecies come to pass right now? Here's what I discovered when I dug deeper into this mystery, and it's the key to understanding everything we're witnessing today. The modern reports of blood-red water are missing something crucial, something that would definitively prove we're in the end times. Let me show you why the timing doesn't add up. You see, the tribulation period described in Revelation follows a very specific sequence. It's not random chaos. It's an ordered series of judgments. And here's what most people don't realize. The sea turning to blood at the third trumpet judgment comes after trumpets 1 and 2 have already sounded. What does that mean? Well, the first trumpet will involve hail and fire and blood raining down on the earth. The second will cause a third of the trees and all of the grass to be burned up. Look outside your window right now. Has any of that happened yet? The answer tells you everything you need to know about whether we're truly in the tribulation. And the bold judgments that turn both sea and fresh water to blood? Those come even later in the sequence. So if these recent blood-red water events aren't fulfillments of biblical prophecy, what's really going on? The answer involves 3 distinct possibilities, and the third one might surprise you. Here's what's actually happening, and why understanding this could save your life if you ever encounter blood-red water yourself. Sometimes, nature creates phenomena so dramatic they seem supernatural. When water suddenly turns blood red, it's often due to something called an algal bloom, or what scientists call a red tide. Here's how it works. When environmental conditions align perfectly, temperature, nutrients, sunlight, colonies of algae explode in population. These microscopic organisms contain pigments that, in massive concentrations, literally dye the water red. It can happen in both fresh water and salt water. The red water in Nootdorp, the Netherlands? Scientists confirmed it was exactly this natural phenomenon. But here's what makes this unsettling. These blooms are becoming more frequent, and no one fully understands why. The man-made explanation. Sometimes, the truth is more sinister than supernatural. In several cases, that blood-red color comes from human activity, specifically illegal dumping of industrial chemicals. The river in Zhejiang province, China, turned crimson because someone was secretly dumping red dye into the water supply. Think about that. Someone deliberately poisoned an entire river system. The Beirut River in Lebanon sparked a government investigation that traced the red coloration back to a factory releasing chemicals into the water. These weren't accidents. These were deliberate acts that endangered entire communities. Discovery 2. The Euphrates connection, when geography becomes prophecy. But perhaps the most startling discovery came from satellite imagery analysis of another prophetically significant body of water, the Euphrates River. Since 2022, the Euphrates has been dropping to historically low levels. Water flow has decreased by over 70% compared to normal levels. Archaeological sites that were underwater for millennia have been exposed. The Euphrates River is drying up. Are we witnessing the end times? What if I told you that one of the most important rivers in human history, a river that's flowed for thousands of years through the cradle of civilization, is vanishing before our eyes. And what if I told you that this exact event was predicted in ancient prophecies as a sign that the final battle for humanity is about to begin? You're about to discover something that mainstream media isn't telling you about the Euphrates River, something that's happening right now as we speak, and it's revealing secrets that have been buried for millennia. But here's what will really grab your attention. The Bible doesn't just mention this river drying up once. It actually provides us with a detailed roadmap of exactly when and why this will happen. And what comes next will determine the fate of every person on Earth. Let me paint you a picture of what we're dealing with here. The Euphrates River has been the lifeblood of the Middle East for over 4,000 years. This isn't just any river. This is part of the legendary Fertile Crescent, the birthplace of human civilization itself. It flows through Turkey, Syria, and Iraq, sustaining millions of lives. But over the past few years, something unprecedented has been happening. The water levels have dropped so dramatically that ancient ruins are being exposed for the first time in centuries. Caves that haven't seen daylight since biblical times are now visible. Archaeological treasures are emerging from what used to be the riverbed. And here's what has Bible scholars around the world sitting up and taking notice. This exact scenario was predicted thousands of years ago, down to the smallest detail. The question everyone's asking is this: are we witnessing prophecy unfold in real time? Now, I need you to pay close attention to what I'm about to reveal, because the Bible gives us not one, but two distinct prophecies about the Euphrates River drying up. And understanding the difference between them could be the key to knowing where we are on the prophetic timeline. The first prediction appears in one of the most dramatic judgment oracles ever written. God is pronouncing judgment against ancient Babylon, against its officials, wise men, false prophets, warriors, horses, chariots, and treasures. And then, like a final devastating blow, God declares a drought on her waters. They will dry up, for it is a land of idols, idols that will go mad with terror. Jeremiah 50:38. The waters of Babylon? That's the Euphrates and Tigris rivers. Both rivers are drying up right now. Coincidence? Keep listening, because it gets much more intense. The second prediction comes from the book of Revelation, and what it describes will send chills down your spine. Here's where the story takes a dramatic turn. The book of Revelation doesn't just describe random judgments. It lays out a precise sequence of events that will unfold during the 7-year tribulation period. And the drying of the Euphrates plays a crucial role in the grand finale. Picture this. The judgments start with 7 seals being broken, Revelation 6:1-17, 8:1-5. Then 7 trumpets sound, each bringing devastating plagues, Revelation 8:6-9:21, 11:15-19. Finally, 7 bowls of God's wrath are poured out, Revelation 16:1-21. But here's what makes this terrifying. These bowl judgments are so destructive that, if they continued, every human being on earth would die. Mark 13:19-20. The 6th bowl judgment, the second to last judgment of the entire tribulation, targets the Euphrates River specifically. Revelation 16:12 reveals exactly what will happen. The 6th angel poured out his bowl on the great river Euphrates, and its water was dried up to prepare the way for the kings from the east. But wait, there's a strategic reason for this that will blow your mind. The river isn't dried up randomly. It's being prepared as a highway. A highway for what? For a massive army from the east to march toward their destiny. And where are they marching? to the place that in Hebrew is called Armageddon. Revelation 16:16. That's right. The drying of the Euphrates is the final setup for the Battle of Armageddon, the ultimate showdown between good and evil, where Jesus returns and destroys all of God's enemies. Revelation 16:17-20, 19:11-21. Now here's the million-dollar question. Is what we're seeing today the beginning of this prophetic fulfillment? 5 clues that reveal the truth. Possibility number 1. Ancient history repeating. Some scholars believe Jeremiah's prophecy was already fulfilled back in 539 BC. Here's the fascinating backstory. The Persian king Cyrus wanted to conquer Babylon, but the city seemed impregnable. So what did he do? According to the Greek historian Herodotus, Cyrus diverted the Euphrates River just enough to allow his army to sneak into the city through the water channels under the walls. Brilliant military strategy? Absolutely. Fulfillment of biblical prophecy? Possibly. Possibility number 2. Lost in time. The prophecy might have been fulfilled by a natural drought at some unknown point in history. Ancient records aren't complete, and significant droughts could have occurred without being properly documented. Possibility number 3. Right here, right now. What if we're witnessing Jeremiah's prophecy being fulfilled as the Tigris and Euphrates rivers diminish before our eyes? The timing would be remarkable, considering everything else happening in our world today. Possibility number 4. Still to come. Perhaps. Jeremiah's prophecy is actually connected to the end times events described in Revelation, and both will be fulfilled during the Great Tribulation that's still ahead of us. Possibility number 5. The double fulfillment. Here's a possibility that keeps many prophecy experts awake at night. What if the prophecy has a double fulfillment? Once in the past, as a warning and demonstration of God's power, and again in the future during the end times as the final judgment? But regarding the Revelation prophecy about the Euphrates drying up, that one has a definitive timeline. And what I'm about to tell you will either give you peace of mind or cause you to start preparing for what's coming. The 3 unmistakable signs. We're not there yet. Here's how you can know with certainty whether we're experiencing the end times drying of the Euphrates described in Revelation. I'm going to give you 3 clear indicators that will settle this question once and for all. Sign number 1. The sequence is everything. The 6th bowl judgment doesn't happen in isolation. It comes near the very end of a 7-year tribulation period. Before this supernatural drying occurs, the Antichrist must rise to power globally. 2 miracle-working prophets must appear in Jerusalem and preach for 1,260 days. Devastating judgments must ravage the earth in a specific order. Look around you right now. Has any of that happened yet? The answer tells you everything you need to know about our current timeline. Sign number 2. The commerce connection. Here's a detail most people miss. According to Revelation 18:17-19, during the tribulation period, Babylon will be conducting massive commercial shipping operations. The prophecy specifically mentions commerce by ship, which means the rivers in that area must be flowing freely during the tribulation, at least until the very end. If the rivers are already dried up now, how could this future commerce be possible? Sign number 3. The Eastern Army, the supernatural drying of the Euphrates, in Revelation 16:12, serves one specific purpose: to create a pathway for the kings from the east to bring their army westward toward Israel. This isn't a metaphor, it's describing a literal military invasion involving millions of soldiers. Right now, today, is there a massive Eastern army threatening to march toward Israel? Are world leaders gathering their forces for a final assault on the Holy Land? The current geopolitical situation, complex as it is, doesn't match this specific prophetic scenario. Here's what you need to understand. When the time comes for the Battle of Armageddon, the Euphrates River will indeed dry up completely and supernaturally. The current water level changes, the revealing of ancient ruins and caves, fascinating as they are, have nothing to do with Revelation 16:12. The biblical timeline simply hasn't reached that point yet. But here's what should capture your attention. The fact that we're already seeing dramatic changes to this prophetically significant river should remind us that the events described in Scripture are not fairy tales. They're future realities that will unfold exactly as written. The Euphrates River has been a witness to human history for millennia. It has seen the rise and fall of empires, the birth of civilizations, and the fulfillment of ancient prophecies. And one day, perhaps sooner than we think, it will play its final prophetic role as the highway that enables the last great battle of human history. Until then, every drop in its water level serves as a reminder that the God who spoke these prophecies thousands of years ago is still in control of rivers, nations, and the ultimate destiny of our world. The Sea of Galilee isn't just any body of water. It's the geographic center of Jesus' earthly ministry, the location where he walked on water, calmed storms, and called his disciples. The place where divine miracles involving water were first demonstrated to humanity. For this specific lake to turn blood red carries significance that no other water body could match. But the prophetic significance extends beyond historical importance. Current geopolitical developments in Israel suggest that we're watching the convergence of spiritual signs with political preparations for end times events. Recent archaeological discoveries beneath the Temple Mount have accelerated Jewish interest in temple reconstruction. International pressure on Israel has intensified exactly as biblical prophecy predicts. Peace treaty negotiations involving multiple Middle Eastern nations are proceeding along lines that match Daniel's prophecy about the Antichrist confirming a covenant with many. The physical signs occurring in Israel's most spiritually significant locations are happening while political developments prepare the stage for end times prophecy fulfillment. It's as if heaven and earth are being synchronized for the final act of human history. All roads lead to Jerusalem. But when you map all the current supernatural events geographically, a pattern emerges that should make every believer's heart race. The locations experiencing unexplained water anomalies, atmospheric phenomena, and geological changes are clustering around Jerusalem in expanding concentric circles.
Many seem to be confused because they do not understand the book of Revelation. However, what if there was an animation showing the entire book? Well, we created that. And to watch that, click here.